No, I'm their Italian guide, and I take care of all the technical stuff. And what do? I carry their bags.
Sometimes I wish I didn't spend so much time binge-watching every low-budget movie out there. Sharknado sequels, dinosaur movies that aren't Jurassic Park, and a good amount of horror movies, which wasn't completely needed, as that genre hasn't yet gone to complete shit. And the reason I do this is in the hopes of finding something good, which isn't the case too often. But The Well, starring Terrifier 2 and 3's Lorraine Rivera, is a rare example of a low-budget movie that's, no pun intended, well worth watching. It's also about $5 on Amazon, $4 on YouTube, so if the economy has fucked you too, and you spent all the money you can bear to spend on movies you don't need to see this year, I'm gonna get into why The Well is a good alternative to whatever other movie you know you can't afford. If money isn't an issue for you, it doesn't mean you have to avoid this. The opening scene immediately sets the tone of what's to come. The haunting music, the somewhat desolate setting, even the way the text disappears, it's honestly well done. Rivera plays Lisa Gray, a restorer of art, who's been sent in place of her somewhat strict father to restore an important painting, and if it doesn't go well, there could be consequences. This will create a sense of dread as the movie goes on, as things tend to inevitably go badly. And traveling to Sambuchi with her, coincidentally, are three biologists, Tracy, Tony, and Madison, who would normally just be there to die horribly, and, well, they are. But as far as these types of characters go, they're not completely uninteresting. Marcos, on the other hand, the extremely nice Italian fellow, is anything but. The more he appears in the movie, the more obvious his outcome is, and until then, he does not bear mentioning. Claudia Grenier plays Emma, probably the most notable name in this, who owns the painting that's been severely damaged by fire. She explains how it must be completed within 2 weeks to take part in an important auction, but despite the time being a supposed issue, it never really seems to be. It's implied, given that her dad is supposedly somebody, and she has to fill in, but you don't really get a sense of desperation until things start to go wrong, and even then it's rarely ever implied that it won't get done on time. But then again, I guess it doesn't have to. It wouldn't really have added that much, and I don't think that kind of tension is needed given what's to come.
And I'd like to sleep in this room. It's the best way for me to get acquainted with the work.
Yes, of course.
You see, it's the Johnny Depp method, you can't fail with that. I do want to again point out the setting of this movie. Similar to the unsettling music, the atmosphere is real effective, as is the girl who's mysteriously singing, as in most cases they're not big on talking just yet. And I don't know if it's just me, but even the singing has a distraught vibe to it. Which does make sense, as we'll soon find out, so again, it really is the perfect setting. Unfortunately, the actress playing her is the least convincing.
It contains evil. You'll be haunted. It will curse you. Forever. He's the one who never wants to see me. Ever again. I'll always be alone. Forever, and it's all my mother's fault!
I'm going to assume the budget ran out for that character. We're told that Julia is simply too shy, and that's the reason for this. A severe personality disorder. I think she's thinking of Rachel Ziegler. And even though we know that's probably not true, the scene does have some good foreshadowing.
She doesn't get along with anyone her age.
Time's been incredibly kind to you, Duchess.
Keep that in mind for later. As for the other three, it's not so perfect. When Tony goes missing, they of course don't stick together, because, you know, horror movie. They're captured along with some fourth guy we don't know, and this is when the movie takes a darker turn. Yeah, that's pretty fucking disturbing. 25 minutes in is a good time to get something horrific, and I'd say this gets that done. The choking sound he keeps making, his unsettling movement, the fact that he's sending a bucket down the well, that's why it's called The Well, to obtain blood from an unknown entity. And what I really like about this scene is you're shown just enough. You don't know what's down there just yet or what the purpose is, but you know it's not positive as they're gonna be killed one by one. And Tony is the first to go as he won't shut up. It's interesting to note that they all assess the situation differently, whether it be ignoring him, being afraid, playing intelligently, or just acting stupid. They really didn't need to do that, but it does stand out if you pay attention, and we will see more of this as it goes on. Like I said, Tony is not smart, so he's first. And we find out the movie is not only disturbing in concept, it's pretty damn graphic. He's beaten up, tortured a bit for good measure, and thrown down the well. We still don't know what's down there, but it does finish him off, And even though I can't show a lot of this, this is a very graphic movie. It's not Terrifier, but this scene is by no means the worst of it. It's how you say, unapologetic. So getting back to the fine art of paint restoring, we see the picture is not quite what she expected, and it also makes noise, causing her to get cut severely, which doesn't really affect anything. Like I said, not getting done isn't an issue, but I suppose it does create tension. There is a scene that implies her dad, who just shows up, doesn't agree with the progress being made, and does something we all know we can't talk about, but let's just say it's very negative. However, it's not real, just imagined, very realistically, and at this point in the movie, such things should be ignored. Unlike the like button that's located down below, and if you think the movie is worth it yet, subscribing would be a good way to show that. Visiting the gaming channel is an option too, if you want the same thing, but with games. Opposed to the clearly fake visions and or nightmares featuring Melanie Gatos, who is also in the painting, maybe consider that. The captives cannot ignore their situation, but one of them has an escape plan. An escape plan that won't work if he's killed next, and it would seem the fat man has joined the Me Too movement, choosing to take the men first.
You're a fucking filthy monster killing innocent people!
But a perfectly reasonable insult given the situation can persuade him to see it a different way. Obviously she knew what the outcome of this would be, and like I said, the violence here is only ramped up. This is the most graphic scene in the movie, the torture is relentless, and upon being thrown down the well, still not dead, you finally see the creature, who looks okay. It's not the most memorable thing, but again, it doesn't need to be, and the way they build up to it, showing you more of what's going on each time, that's what I call good pacing. She continues to be violently killed, and this is the pattern this film kinda follows. Bad things happen to these unimportant characters, and Lisa, given ample reasons to believe something isn't right, Julia outright tells her, hey, Emma, she's a witch, the painting's cursed, and if you fix the painting, you'll be cursed too, which she doesn't believe, as Julia doesn't exactly act normal. And honestly, that's something this movie handles real well. Obviously, you can't have no dumb decisions. Maybe you'd consider Julia isn't lying given what's going on, but as to being completely oblivious to what's happening, I wouldn't say that. Upon seeing the dead body of the person she barely knew floating in the bathtub, she does attempt to leave, in which Emma says that's not an option.
If you try to leave, I give you my word, you regret it.
And that plot point is a much better alternative than evil entity has blocked the exit, or we're just too fucking stupid to realize something ain't right.
You're talking nonsense.
It's a more relatable way to symbolize being trapped, and I appreciate that effort. I'm not trying to say it's revolutionary, but it's more than I expected. As for the escape plan, it goes badly. Can't exactly show it, but the result is the monster gets out. We find out the painting is in fact cursed, the monster's blood can be used to grant eternal youth, that's why it's being traded for people, and if the moonlight shines on the painting, the curse will be renewed, thus being the reason she wants it fixed quickly. Her response is kind of odd.
You have a great imagination, okay? You really do.
That's an imagination that's fucking twisted, bit overly negative, but as mentioned earlier, I do like how they foreshadow this. I don't know why she insisted upon her having dinner, obviously that would make her suspicious, but that aside, it's good writing, but the next bit kind of isn't. She casually mentions the 3 new victims, and I mean casually.
Yeah, those 3 new victims don't have time either. Yeah, it's the last one that they captured.
Doesn't seem like it was even meant to get her attention, but since she knew them and already questioned them not being around, it's a good enough reason to look into it, and conveniently enough, it's apparently on the premises. She heads down to investigate while Julia stalls or something, and by investigate I mean grab the handy mace, and spend way too much time hiding by the dead bodies. Despite that, it's still a tense scene, and Lavera's acting is, I'd say, underrated. Recognition probably doesn't come that easy when you mostly only appear in incredibly violent movies, like this one, and you know, Terrifier, but hopefully the popularity of that franchise will change that, as she does kind of nail the few roles I've seen her in. As for Tracy, she does almost get away, but instead she fucks up. She takes a hot cleaver to the face, that's gotta sting. But Lisa saves her, takes the fat guy out relatively easily. It's too bad she waited so long. The monster finishes him off, and Marcus, the nice Italian, isn't so nice. Well, why did you think he was in the movie? They demand she finish the painting, but Julia threatens to burn it, for real I guess, as she's none too pleased about not aging, and this leads to a big conundrum in which Lisa is shot by an arrow, but she's okay, I guess, and in the end it times out, meaning everyone dies. from rapidly aging, including Julia, but she's okay with it. And as you'd expect, this climax doesn't really hold up. It makes sense why it wouldn't. It can't purely rely on the tone and the setting. It's never gonna be the strong suit of movies like this, but there's one plot hole I can't overlook. Julia, obviously okay with dying, why didn't she burn it a long time ago? She clearly has access to that room, so what's her motivation not to do that? Is she just angrier now? Is that the case? Well, at least it's a happy ending. Okay, so that authentic scare makes up for it. And watching her proceed to work on the painting with an arrow inside her, and the monster about to break in reminds me that this is a damn good movie. Also, the music is real fitting. And the reason for this is so she can see what's needed to recite and make the thing stop. And then we have what I guess is the twist. Cutting ahead 30 years, apparently she makes it into a lucrative business, the monster has been restrained, and his blood is being used on whoever wants to pay. I don't really get this ending. Keeping the monster tied up to essentially do the same thing, aside from feeding it people, which was obviously the worst part, but still, I don't buy her doing this. Nothing about her throughout the movie suggests she would do something like this, and it feels like they wanted a twist for the sake of having a twist. Also, the outfit is a bit ridiculous. I mean, what even is that? It's definitely unexpected, but it just doesn't add up to me. However, that's just the ending, and it should be apparent by now that The Well is worth more than $5. This is a smart movie, and I don't say that too often about horror movies. I also don't complain about stupidity in them, because it's to be expected, but this manages to mostly avoid that and deliver something that's a bit more relatable without losing the fact that it is a horror movie. Not being able to leave because of responsibility, while still knowing something is not right, it's a unique way to handle it and makes you feel more sympathetic toward the end. Same goes for the 4 captives, about as relatable as they could be with that screen time, and giving someone the most brutal death as a result of trying to save the others makes it all the more effective. Especially because in the end it was all for nothing. To me, the pacing of this movie is real good, and the way they foreshadow things. Some of it doesn't add up, and yeah, the ending is a bit of a mess, but aside from the weird twist, most of that couldn't be avoided. And still, it's not anything that bad. Fact is, this movie does most of what it should do right. It makes you care about what's happening, the stupidity is kept to a minimum, and the brutality is quite high. Like I said, Lavera plays an impressive lead, feels authentic for this role, and due to the combination of that, the gruesome deaths, and a disturbing psychotic clown, kinda. If you're a fan of Terrifier, this may scratch a similar itch. If anything, it's definitely a great value, and a good alternative to whatever mediocrity Hollywood expects you to pay for. I hear the Joker sequel fits that mark. I'm the analyst, and remember kids, dreaming about a mutilated body could happen. If it happens twice, that might be an issue. So, you've made it to the end. That's an impressive feat indeed. Since you managed that, I guess check out the gaming channel, in which I cover a variety of gaming topics, like analysis videos, such as this one. If you're into that, then press the link in the description. It's that simple.